Hi, my name is Paul Secord. I'm the Vice President for Philanthropy for the Mental Health Association of Central Florida. And we're so excited because today we're rolling out another video in our Back to School series. And today we have Dr. Lisa Spector, who is the Chief of Developmental Behavioral Pediatrics at Nemours Children's Health. And we're delighted to have her because today we're going to talk about a very important thing which parents all deal with, which is your child's screen time on electronic devices. Dr. Spector, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Paul. It's a pleasure.
All right, so the first thing is, I think as parents, we generally have no idea on what is suitable in terms of an amount of screen time for, a child at various ages, because you have younger kids, you have teenagers, and you have, almost adults. And I know we all know when we get to the point where we go, it's too much, but how do we manage that leading up? What are some good guidelines, do you think, for children out there?
Yeah, so the AAP has set some guidelines forth. And for the most part, those kids 18 months of age to 24 years of age, they recommend less than an hour a day. And if whatever programming they are watching, that it's high quality content, things like PBS or some instructional, educational component to it for the children. And then once they hit 2 to 5, the same recommendation applies. It's really less than an hour a day and high quality programming that we're co-viewing with our children, meaning that we're sitting there, we're watching what they're watching, we have an opportunity to talk about what they're watching as well. And then once they hit about 6 years of age, they recommend setting limits on screen time. And they don't specifically say exactly what limits to place on screen times, but it's generally recommended to be less than 2 hours a day,
Okay.
especially on weekdays. And this doesn't, mind you, keep in mind, this doesn't include those screens kids are on for school. This has to do with leisure screen time that they're doing in addition to or after school related screens.
And we're talking about all devices combined. So if they have a phone, if they have an iPad, if they have a computer, that's all the screen time combined for personal use.
Exactly. Combining all of those screens together. Yes.
Okay. So that's probably way less than, imagine that 80% of American children are consuming right now. One of the, I think the challenges is, when you try to introduce restrictions, a lot of the children come back with sometimes valid and I guess, invalid justifications, but justifications nonetheless, ranging from, oh, I need this because, my school, I do a lot of my homework on my phone. It's just easier for me. You don't realize, but this is how I keep up with my friends. And we're talking about what we're going to wear tomorrow, what we're going to do tomorrow. Or I know in Snapchat for a long while was streaks, where the children would go back and forth and build a streak communicating. And so if they missed a day, the streak would end. And that was like a major stress point. So all these great excuses, how do you deal with them as a parent? Because, it's hard when your kid comes to you with this type of stuff.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of really great points that is really tailored to each individual child. There are so many positives to screen usage these days. It helps kids connect with each other and engage with each other. But particularly for the younger children, especially those ones in elementary school, it's so important that we put some limits to their screen time because it allows them to engage in play. And the more that they engage in play, the more they build their problem solving skills. So really limiting those screens. For some folks, it means taking the remote controls and putting them in a lockbox for a period of time. And we see that when children don't have access to screens, yes, they're going to complain a little bit here and there, but over time, then they start picking up those toys and engaging in more of that pretend play, where they're building something together, whether it's a fort in the house or something with Legos, or engaging in pretend play with like figurines and such, which is really essential for those problem solving, skill building that we see, in older adolescents and as adults.
That's true. I guess it's almost like junk food, right? Like if the junk food is there, you're going to eat it. But if you can make conscious decisions about healthy foods, you'll feel much better and you'll be much better for it at the end of the day. So I guess it's just a matter of trying to find activities like you're talking about that you can substitute in place of the screen time, I guess, right?
Absolutely. And a great thing to think about too is ways to get outside and be active, or to be active in the house as well. We know that when kids are consuming too much screen time, it also leads sometimes to obesity for children because they're doing these sedentary activities in lieu of more active activities that will help them burn the calories they may be eating while they're playing the games or watching the shows.
And so true. I've seen kids and I can't stop right now. I'm almost finished with the maze. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm running in the maze. But they haven't taken one step outside, but yet they're virtually running. So I know that's kind of an interesting thing. Another challenge, I think, with parents, aside from figuring out, that substitute activity, is also figuring out how much access you should have as a parent, in terms of, do I block certain apps? What type of policy should I set up with regards to hand over your phone? I want to check it. Should that be a regular thing? Is that only an emergency thing? What are your thoughts about parents and their level of involvement in your child's digital life?
Such a great question. It's so important as parents to keep our kids safe. And part of keeping them safe is keeping them safe online as well. So there's many different apps and programs that we can invest in as parents to help us keep kids safe online. There's things like Pinwheel where you can install it on the phone and it allows us as parents to access what the child is doing. It helps us control what apps they can download onto their phone. It allows us to it will target conversations and text messages and pull them out for parents to then review when they have the time to do that. There's other apps and programs or websites, for example, like commonsensemedia.org is a really great site people can go to see Roblox, for example. What is the age appropriate age to let our kids play Roblox? Because we have
Yes.
younger and younger kids saying, I want to play Roblox. But we might not know that Roblox, as part of the content, has group chats where sometimes inappropriate things happen during those chats. And so knowing that stuff that we don't otherwise know is really helpful to make good choices about, can our children engage in those activities and how old should they be when they do that?
All right. That makes sense. Yeah, there's all kinds. It's like the internet is almost, I should say, the internet's like infinite, right? And so it seems like the number of apps as well. So I guess just managing that is a positive thing to stay on top of. Aside from the things we already covered, what other tips do you have for parents out there in terms of managing screen time?
Yeah, so one of them, there is a media use plan that parents can set up with their children. It's on healthychildren.org and media use plan. So it helps everybody go through their own media use plan. So parents can identify their personal media use plan. And we as parents are the role model for our children. So if we're setting our own limits and talking about the things that we're doing to set limits for ourselves and keep ourselves safe online, it helps model to our children that they're not alone. They're not the only ones we're asking to do this of, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Modeling
and
is a big challenge, though, right? Because we're all addicted to our phones. So I guess it starts with us, starts with the person in the mirror, right?
exactly. And internetmatters.org is also a really great site that helps parents know about different protective measures they can instill on their phone. And then, it's balancing autonomy and safety is what it comes down to in the end. And having those questions or those conversations within our family of how do we balance protecting their safety and promoting their autonomy. And everybody's family looks a little bit different. For example, in our family, I'll say to my children, listen, we, uh, while I can see your text messages, I can't hear your phone calls and the conversations that you have in real life in person. So those are completely your own. I have nothing to do with those, but text messages last forever. And so I'm going to have some involvement in monitoring them and making sure that you're safe and healthy.
I really like that idea because I think there's a flip side to it too, which is we see the younger generations avoiding the phone so much, right? Like, hey, you need to call and check on XYZ. And it's like, you would have thought asked them to move a mountain, to dial a phone number, And so I guess getting them in the habit of that's a valid and important way to be able to communicate, to use the phone is probably a positive, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Having those
Right.
in-person conversations are essential, especially those adolescents and pre-adolescents for their
Okay.
growth development.
And last thing for you, I know that a lot of the phones have actually a setting on them where you can go in, you can see screen time for that day and see the apps that your child is using and stuff like that. Would it be appropriate to say, hey, at certain points, I want to check in and just see what your screen time is? Or I know they also have the ability, I guess, like you might have mentioned earlier, to shut down at a certain point too. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I personally really enjoy those. I've tortured my children in that they used to have tablets that had less of those parameters, and we uh swap them out to have ones that have more of those parameters because it makes us less of the bad guy in the end when the screen time ends. It helps them
Yeah.
better understand time and time limits, and it allows them the opportunity, to set up a contingency or reward-based system, right? So if you do certain things, then you earn additional time for screen time, which then helps us get kids to do some of the things we need them to do, like chores around the house, to earn the things that they really want to work for
Earn
too.
the screen time. I like that idea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dr. Spector, thank you so much. It's been really informative. I know this is a big challenge for almost every parent, so I think this is really helpful. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So if you want more videos like this, please visit MHACF.org to watch these type of videos about back to school, as well as download our back to school guide and get our daily calendar tips, which are all free. That's MHACF.org. Thanks much.